Welcome one more time to our Ideas Edition podcast. And in this episode, you're going to be blown away by the water. I have the one and only Eric Valdez. He's one of an integrity partner, and he's also the president and founder of the Valdez Group. Eric, how are you today?
I'm doing great, George. How are you?
I'm very good, very good. And thank you for accepting the invitation. I think we're going to have an amazing time here in this podcast. You have done very, very big stuff. So I'm really, really curious to know more about you, where you come from, and what you have done to build such an amazing business that you have. And you are an integrity partner, man. This is like, wow. So thank you for being here, Eric.
It's an honor.
Yeah. So first, let's tell the audience where you come from, how you got started in the insurance business, and let's start with that.
Great, George. Well, my background comes from the Life Touch, which is the school picture company. I spent about 15 years there. I was in the mortgage business for about 10 years. Mm-hmm. And then about 9 years ago, in 2015, the bank that I was working for went out of business literally on a Friday afternoon in 15 minutes. Wow. And at that point, I was 46 years old. I'm 55 now. And I said to myself, went home and told my wife, Kim, honey, something's got to change.
Wow.
It's been 30 plus years working in the workforce. 3 times I've been laid off, or jobs been eliminated, or a company is shut down. It's time to go into business for ourselves, take control of our time, and so I didn't know what the product was going to be. I didn't know what the company was going to be, but I knew I wanted to do something for myself and my family that could build something for my children, my grandchildren.
All this time you've been working for corporate America, right? Never started something for yourself.
The entire time, correct. So I quickly got a job at another bank just to get the bills paid. But then somebody who I'd known for 10 years reached out to me and said, I think I might have found something that you and I have talked about doing. You should take a look at it. And it was the insurance world. And at first I wasn't exactly excited about insurance, but what I loved was who we served. And the insurance business, and we know financial services, it is the most underserved market. The middle income America is the most underserved market in the country. 40% of America, which is 128 million people, George, they don't even have a final expense $5,000 burial policy.
Wow.
GoFundMe and car wash signs on a corner, that's not life insurance. And so I said to myself, if I've got 128 million people that don't even have a $5,000 final expense plan, what about life insurance? What about mortgage protection? What about Medicare? All these things, right? Mm-hmm. So I instantly knew I'd never run out of people to talk to. I would just need to find a way to get in front of these people.
Yeah.
Wow. And so, yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So how was that licensing process? So you had to get the license, right?
I did. It took me I did a chapter, seven chapters on a good old, pre-licensing course. It took me about 2 weeks. I did a chapter every other day because I was still working. I got my state test in Ohio and passed the test. And literally for a couple $100 and a laptop and a cell phone, I was ready to sell insurance.
Wow, amazing. And fast forward to that, once you started selling, like what were some of the challenges you experienced at the beginning of that new career? Because you never done anything like this.
That's a great question. I think first of all, I needed to get out of my own way, because with all of that life experience up until 46 years old, you bring with you a lot of fears, some doubts. You're anticipating something going wrong as opposed to something going right. You think you have to. So my ego and my pride mainly got in the way of me learning, wanting to take off that cloak of comfort and the ego and pride, and to be coachable. It's too much know-it-all in me, to kind of unleash and submit to that. And so once I understood that I didn't know it all, and all I had to do was plug into the system that was presented to me and get on the phone, make the appointments. I didn't have to know everything about underwriting. I didn't have to know how to spell the medications. I didn't have to know any of that stuff. I just needed to continue to be kind to people, build a rapport, make those connections, ask them some solid value building questions that I was taught how to do in our system. And then if they like you and trust you, they'll do business with you.
Wow. That's amazing. And then, so you started doing that, what year? Just to kind of
That
get
was
some time.
2015, middle about, in fact, it was March of 2015. I started to literally sell insurance every week.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I wrote like 200 some odd policies in about 10 months.
Wow.
And then that's when I found in 2016, Equus Financial.
Wow. That's amazing. So in that first year, over 200 policies you wrote. Yeah. And so that's a huge accomplishment, because I know a lot of agents that don't do that. Like, they get in the industry and then they think they got to learn it all or know it all, or they have all these doubts where they're afraid to make a phone call and showing the presentation to the clients or closing on a client. And usually they do like 30, 40 policies and they cannot live on that, right?
No.
So,
well, I think the key to that is that if you have a company like you, Idea Insurance, who provides an opportunity for them to get in front of people, if you have people to talk to, it's really you're the only obstacle. And here's my point. I wrote those 200 policies because I had people to talk to, and I was working 3 days a week. I was not working 5 days a week. Wow. I chose my personal preference to run all day Monday, all day Tuesday, and all day Wednesday, 15 to 18 appointments. I wanted some time with my family. I didn't get into the insurance world because I was afraid of being unemployed or making money. I was making a multi-six-figure income in the mortgage business. I wanted time to be with my family, my wife, my kids, go to ball games, not have to work 9 days a week to get that done. So remember the 200 policies, but I was only working 14 days a month.
wow, that's amazing. You have to be extremely disciplined to get to that point, or to achieve that level of writing policies and at the same time having some time off for you and your family, which is very, very, very important. How did you manage time? Because I think that's another hassle that some agents have, where now they're self-employed and they have all this time and now they don't know what to do with it. And sometimes they think that they made one sale a day and that's good. And it might be good if it's a big sale, but why focus on one when you can have 10 sales or 20 sales in a week?
And that's a great question. You know, I think the first thing that came to my mind when you asked me that question was, you know, the freedom of now being at the point was I'm a business owner, right? I have a license. Nobody's going to wake me up on Monday morning and write me up if I don't show up to go to work. Going to work meant going to the back bedroom of my home, closing the door. Now I'm at work on my computer, making appointments, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So the best and worst part of this business is the freedom. So if you're somebody who needs that alarm clock to go off, to get dressed real quick, get out the door, to clock in at work, this may be a little tough for you. But nobody had to get me up out of bed to go protect families and make the kind of living that these insurance carriers will provide you. They don't tell them, but they almost overpay us for doing this. So
I think so too. Pay us too good.
That's right.
But we do the things that other people are not willing to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think that and this wonderful group of agents that I work with now in my agency, we talk a lot about, sacrifice, discipline, and execution. I've always said, if you do more now than what you're paid for, someday you'll actually be paid more for what you actually do.
Oh my God.
And we've heard that many times, said many different ways. But if you really do believe that, and if you can put your head down for a couple of years, you will never look back and you're like, wow, those are the best 18 months, 24 months because you set yourself up not only for all of your book of business, your residual income, and if you chose to build an agency, which we may end up discussing on this podcast, it can create not only financial freedom, which is not getting rich, by the way. Financial freedom is a completely different thought process, which we can talk about in a few minutes if you want to.
Yeah. What's financial freedom?
Oh, glad you asked that. So financial freedom is this. Insurance, the financial services business is the most regulated industry in the country. This isn't multi-level marketing. We're not selling widgets and makeup. This is like, so you have to be somewhat of a stand-up citizen to get a license. You can't have a active felony. You can have a misdemeanor or two, but it can't be from you snagging $20 out of the cash register at the 7-Eleven. You can't do stuff like that, right? But if you're a stand-up citizen and you grab that license, like it's a really regulated industry. And so my point is this: the financial freedom, what I'm talking, so it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, is my point.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if you can put your head down for a couple of years, and I think this is important for the people on this podcast that are watching and listening, and it is this: most people, by the way, there's another 40%, not only the people that don't have insurance, but do you know that 40% of America, which is that same 128 million people, George, they have a part-time job, side hustle, in addition, this is the important part, in addition to their full-time job. And so most part-time jobs, my daughter was a perfect product of that. She went out and exchanged, 15 to 20 hours a week, 80 hours a month at a retail store. We all know them. It's either red or it's blue. And she did that. And the problem with that is they're making your schedule, generally working you when you don't want them to work you. You're working weekends when your husband is doing, he's off, but now you're working because they need you on the weekends on the register, putting away clothes, all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing. So think about that. Even at 20 hours a week, 80 hours a month, even $15 an hour minus taxes, it's not even $1,000. And here's the thing: you exchanged 80 hours of time away from your children, away from your husband, away from your family. And why do most people have a part-time job? They're trying to get ahead. They're trying to pay off their credit cards. They're trying to make extra payments on their home. They're trying to make sure that little Susie can now do that gymnastics class or that travel ball team, which is $500 a month. Where does that money come from? But here's the thing: you're missing all of those things because you're at work.
You're at work.
That's the beauty. Remember, we talked about freedom.
Wow.
So when you become an independent agent, you choose when you work. You don't work for me. You work for yourself. So if you have a travel ball schedule on Friday and Saturday out of town, then run an extra day or two before that and don't work and go to the track meet, go to the softball tournament. You
control your time.
You control it. And so this is a great part of the story. And just bear with me just like 2 minutes. Can I tell you something? When I was very skeptical when I got in this business, because probably my age, my past, just in working life, it's like too good to be true, right? Let me tell you something. The first time I opened up my app on my phone, my bank app, and saw that they literally paid me right around $500 for my first application, I thought, okay, if this is legal, ethical, and moral, like, you will not be able to stop me. and it was, of course, right? And so with that being said, we got to a point after about 120 days into this, about 4 months into this, I said, Kim, why don't we do this? Let's write one application a month that we put towards that credit card. Another application a month towards that credit card.
Wow.
One application a month towards that car payment. Can I tell you, all the viewers need to listen to this very closely.
Wow.
If you're thinking about getting a license, I want you to close your eyes and think about this. Can you imagine what it felt like instead of going on to online, opening up your Capital One app, and the minimum payment was $92 a month on my credit card. I owed like $4,000. Knowing darn well 68 if it's going to go to, interest, and the rest of it's going to go to principal.
Yeah.
Do you know how powerful it was
Wow.
to be able to hit $92? And that little line that we never put additional principal, you could put $500, and now it's $592.
Wow.
And then hit submit. Like it's
powerful.
like, I got you this month. You didn't get me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's powerful.
And to do that, and every single month, I mean, how many apps, viewers are pretty smart, take $3,500 and divide it by 5. How many apps did it take for me? How many families did I need to protect to get rid of that get rid of that card? If I owed $10,000 on my Toyota Camry, how many applications did I need to write to eliminate that $10,000? 20 of them. I'm done. And so when I speak of financial freedom, George, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You want financial freedom? Get out of debt.
That's the first
Don't
step.
quit your job.
That's the first
Get a license, go to work 2 or 3 evenings a week, work a complete Saturday, go run 6 or 8 appointments, and still take your spouse out to dinner. But go make a couple $1,000 bucks.
There you go. And I believe that was your why And you were
That was it.
very intentional. Like, I need to get out of debt, and this is how we're gonna do it.
That's right.
And amazing strategy. Wow. And I think if more agents had that thought process when they start this business, oh, they will be so much productive. Not only making money, but putting the money towards things that they need to fix in their life. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that. So first year was crucial because you probably made all this extra money, keep paying the bills, but also started putting some money in getting out of the debt and started becoming debt free or financially free, right? Now, what happened second and third year in the business? How you got interest in starting maybe now building an organization or maybe getting other agents in your organization and teaching agents? Because I think it's two different skill sets. Like, I have very, very good agents that know how to sell, but then when we talk about team building, they struggle. And then I have other agents that are really good at getting people in, but then they're not good selling themselves, so their new agents also don't sell. So right. How did you do it? I'm very curious.
So we're going to go back to those three words: sacrifice, discipline, execution. So it's discipline to your schedule. And it's making, so I ran business Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
So you still did that?
I still did that. So I didn't stop. Leading from the front is really important, right? Okay. We have some great, absolutely tremendous leadership on our team. I think down the road here, you guys might hear from a young lady named Chris Tinsman. And Chris Tinsman's been leading from the front for 16 years of her life. Like, you can't outwork her and you can't outwrite her. And so if you ever have her on as a guest, pay attention. So it's all about controlling your time, controlling your schedule. And if you are a master at that and just basically eliminating things in your, call it eliminating white space that doesn't need to be there, but inserting things into that. And I'm talking 15-minute windows. I'm not talking 3 hours, 15-minute windows. So I was a little thrifty. I wasn't cheap, but I was thrifty. So I didn't want to go start a bunch of like campaigns on platforms out there. Nothing wrong with ZipRecruiter, but I liked getting out of debt. Okay. So here's my point. So I thought, it's all about asking yourself better questions. I'm getting in front of 15 to 18 people a week.
Okay. These
clients understand better than any candidate would on a platform what we do because they sent in a form. They have an interest in protecting their family. Mm-hmm. 80-85% of the time, you're writing them a life insurance policy of some kind. Mm-hmm. So they actually went through the process. They filled out an application with you. They talked about value with you. So they know exactly what's happening. So in the first 2 years of my business, in my opinion, this is the way I viewed things. If I'm running 18 appointments a week and I'm sitting with 13 or 14 of those people, that's 13 interviews. Well, Eric, what do you mean? Well, it was real simple. Now, I ran a lot of pre-COVID. I don't care if you're a virtual agent or if you're an in-person agent. It doesn't matter to me. We have plenty of virtual agents that do exactly what I'm getting ready to tell you. So you'll wrap up the appointment, you submit the application, you're closing up the appointment, thanking them for the opportunity to be their agent. You're going to do a great job for them. And then I ask what I call, now I'm going to transition to letting them know and feeling like I want to ask them about maybe a possibility of doing this with me. So I would say, George, Maria, are you happy with what we did today? Yes, we're very happy. Oh, great. Well, I am too. And I'm so grateful that you would choose me to be your agent. I promise I'll do a super job for you. And I won't violate that trust that you've now given me to protect your family. Speaking of protecting families, I've been charged with kind of growing the business within the community here. And we just find that, kind of salespeople sometimes aren't the best candidates for what we do. It's people like you and me that understand the value of protecting a family. I mean, you just went through this, right? Mm-hmm. And I think to do this, you just need to be kind. You need to kind of like people, which obviously you do, and understand the value of protecting families. So if you know anybody like you that would be maybe interested in going out and working a couple of extra nights a week, maybe running 5 or 10 appointments like I do part-time and making an extra $500 to $1,000 a week, would you please send them my way? I'm going to send you in a separate email with you can just send, and then and I do a little overview on Wednesday nights and Saturday, and and then it's called indirect recruiting.
Awesome.
And for that, about every 10 people, every 10 clients that I did that to, whether they took a policy with me or not, I still asked them. 3 of those people would now want to get a license, or they'd send me somebody because they're like, you know what? I could write an app or 2 a week. I could do that. And
that's so interesting.
Here's the point. About 1 person a month we got going. After 2 years, we had 29 agents now working for the Valdez Group. In addition to my personal production, I mean, it was these overrides. I mean, it's over and above what we do personally, right? So we make our own commission. All of it goes to ourselves when I write you. But George, if you work with me and you're coachable, you're trainable, you know, these carriers, every time you get paid, they will pay me an override commission over and above what they paid you, thanking me for getting you trained, helping you, sometime, you know, inspiring you to go out there and move and train you. And they'll do that every single time you write an app. So think about that. If it, you know, it didn't matter what the amount, it could be $70, could be $100, it doesn't matter. But here's the thing. So that financial freedom we're talking about. So what happens if 2 years down the road, you know, all of a sudden I get COVID, I get pneumonia. If I'm personally producing and I'm only relying on me, and I'm not selling insurance,
and money stops,
then I'm not making any money. The money stops. But if I've now built this team of agents that are out there, now I still have a bunch of money coming in, right? And literally after 2 is 29, and then it was 40, and then it was 65, and then it was 8, and now it's over 300 agents.
Wow.
Now here's the thing, though. We've got one of the big, Chris Tinsman, all these people you might have on later on down the road. They're building their teams. So you can grow and grow and grow. So lead from the front. Okay, good. You have people to talk to. You're sitting in front of them every single week. These people, I promise you, George, these people you're protecting every week, the people that are listening to this podcast, and a lot of licensed people are, these are agents, right? Here's the thing. Those people are having kitchen table conversations.
Wow.
Not just about life insurance, but about something's got to change. Something's got to give. Either you're going to let them go to a retail store, or you're going to help them really change their lives with the financial services business.
Wow. And so after you get them in the business, they start selling. But again, they haven't done this before.
It's okay.
What processes do you have in place to ensure, or maybe give them a better chance at success? Like, okay, I'm not sure, because this is what they have in their mind probably. Okay, I started doing this, but I'm not sure if it's going to work. I think I can do it, but I don't know how I'm going to make this happen. So your goal now as a leader that brought that person in, how can you help that person, or what processes do you take as an organization to making sure that person actually, we pave them the road for success?
So I think that's one of the beauties of the system that you run at Idea Insurance and the systems that we run in the Valdez Group, and they're very similar. You provide people, I think, to be successful in this industry, and as for those of you that are possibly licensed listeners and might even not even be, you might be with another company. You know, I think because we interview a lot of people. And one of the things we interview a lot of licensed agents, and some of the things that we find is, you know, they might have leadership at their company, but they don't have good training, or they have good training, but they don't have good leadership, or they have training and leadership, but they don't have enough people to talk to. So something's missing, right? Missing. Yeah. And that's the one thing I love about Idea Insurance, the Valdez Group. Like we're intertwined, we're connected together, we work together every week. Every time I hear that, here's what I say to myself: man, I'm pretty lucky, because I don't have a weak link in my system. I have leadership that I people that have taught me well, that I paid attention to. Okay, I've submitted myself to them. So we've got leadership. We have people to talk to. We've got great training. What a platform through the Equus Financial System, a platform to train. We have daily coaching calls. We have weekly leader calls. We have dial session training, how to dial, what to say, what not to say. But here's the responsibility part, right?
Yeah.
You've got to plug into the system. You have to get up. So that's where the sacrifice, discipline, and execution comes in. And if you're willing to submit and go through a learning curve, knowing what's going to happen on the back end, if you only knew what was on the other side of that little hill in the mountains. And by the way, it doesn't mean it's easy street, but it sure is a lot easier once you get on the other side of it. Yeah. So I think that's important to know.
And I think you mentioned the key point there, the learning curve. Not a lot of agents want to go through the learning curve. They want the results now, but right. But maybe they don't have the skill set yet. And then, we got a lot of agents that, they give up or they go back to doing other stuff. And I don't know if that happens to you. Probably sure it happens. Absolutely. Right?
Absolutely does.
And it's just because they didn't see that big picture.
It is. And we never give up on those people, because I've had many agents that take a little bit of a breather, take a little bit of a break, and then come back. Because here's what they do. They think it's easier to go back to what they were doing. And then they remember really quickly why they were here. They end up generally coming back. They're like, I don't want to go work at that box store anymore. That was hard work. This is not hard work. This is tedious. I got to pay attention. I got to be disciplined. But I'd much rather do this than that. So
yeah. And when you're helping other leaders as well lead their teams, what are some of the skill set that maybe that leader needs to have to continue to build their team and be successful at building a team now and not only selling? So we're probably already looking at someone that knows how to sell, that maybe started bringing 1 or 2 people, but now is struggling with those 3-4 people. So you as a leader now, and having all of these years of building big businesses, what's your approach to help that overcoming leader, that rising leader?
I think it's a good question. I think it's different. So the first thing I'm going to say, I think, and that I've learned, and I've made every mistake like 7 times. So over 30 some odd years, I can promise you that. So I don't have all of the answers, but I've learned enough to say this, to give a few things that I think are set in stone for yourself. Mm-hmm. You can never stop learning for yourself. Like, you always have to be developing yourself. Don't ever get to a point where you think, okay, I know enough about that now, I can stop doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. You just lost. Like, you're now on this. It's like that would literally be like running over a nail. Mm-hmm. And then that slow leak, it's going to just slow leak forever. So lead from the front in developing yourself. Let people do what they need to do. Like, I guess I should say, don't micromanage so much but control the controllables. So pay attention to and manage the things that move the needle of your business. We are in the people business. Barry Clarkson is the president and CEO of the parent company that we are with. And that is one thing I've learned from him, is that we are in the people business. Your job is to set the pace and the tone first. We call that leading from the front, but in every single avenue of that business. But the first is, I'm reading 3 books right this minute, and I know that's kind of crazy, but it's just different because they're different things, right? And I think the best thing you can do as a leader is to always be reading something. They say that with the top CEOs, they're reading 1 book a month.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, and it doesn't have to be. Sometimes it's the same book. Like there's books that I know, I have managers that I work with that say they read the same 3 books during the month of December to start the new year. They do that every single year to remind them of the things that work, and to maybe not, and to remember the things that don't work. And I think teaching and helping a manager or a coach manage their time. Be careful who you spend your time with, right? Be empathetic, not sympathetic. There's a difference.
What's the difference?
I think empathetic is like, I can side with somebody who had a bad day or is going through some things, but it's like, we can't ever stop those things from happening, because, by the way, they're going to happen again. Yeah. But how do I deal with that? Maybe help that agent through that, find the silver lining in that. And then so that when it pops up next time, it doesn't hurt as bad. I call it, you have to kind of Rain-X yourself a little bit, right? Because you have things that got to bounce off of you. We do that. We coach our agents to do that when they're dialing, setting appointments, whatever that is. But we as leaders have to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Is it really earth shattering or no? Because that's going to happen probably next week at 4:00 on Tuesday too. Like I just understand just understand how to deal with it. The sky's not always falling.
Yeah. And some agents have that attitude where they think it's just the worst day. And I talk a lot about the mental mindset also. Like
Yes.
when before you go to work, you gotta have the right mindset, because otherwise you're gonna end up with a bad day.
Absolutely. Well, and I think a part of that mindset, George, is understanding you're going to have days that don't go your way
That's true.
all the time. And we call it the learning curve, but part of the learning curve, I mean, I've been in the business now 9 years. Part of my learning curve is understanding, realizing, and accepting what I just said. Not every day is going to be. So like it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
And again. Oh, by the way, and again. So that's the part of it is like, okay, this is what, okay, I get, like I'm okay. And then after a while, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have value. It doesn't mean that it's not hard, but I've just learned how to deal with it differently.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. And as leaders, you also mentioned as leaders, we also have to have that right mindset, right? Because then you will not be able to educate and motivate the people that really want to make this happen. Because as a leader, you might have some money coming in already. You might have the support system, and you always have to have the agent's best intention at heart.
Yes.
Right. Like when you get someone in a group, even if you don't have the skills to help them, it is your responsibility, right? Because you're bringing that person to the business. You were the one that told them about the insurance business. So, and you're going to get paid if that person sells, right? That's the good thing. But sometimes I've seen agents that want to have agencies, want to have this leadership and want to build an organization, but then they still lack all these other things that they're not used to because they're good at selling, but now this is totally new for them. Have you experienced that in your organization, and how do you guys manage that, or kind of teach that leader?
I think that something that I had to get better at. I'm not mastered it yet. I'm not where I want to be either, but it's. We talked about eliminating white space and putting things in your calendar, in your white space.
Yeah.
You need to take time to kind of like, I have a whiteboard. I'm a little old school. Mm-hmm. I have a whiteboard in my office, and it has every leader on it listed.
Wow.
Okay. And I've literally, some people would do it on a spreadsheet. You probably would. You're very tech savvy, but I like to, sometimes I just turn in my chair and I stare at it. And I have that leader at the top and those top agents that are like down. It's like, how can I better serve that team this week, that team this week, that team this week? And it's being planful with them, for them. I reach out to managers sometimes, say, hey, every team has a bottom third, people that need to be worked with, people that need to be inspired, maybe people that just need a phone call. Just before this podcast, I sent a text message to an agent that I had reached out to a manager and said, hey, give me 3 or 4 people that might benefit from a conversation with me. I'm taking pressure off of that leader that he can go do what he needs to do. Let me, because I've been doing this a little bit longer, right? I've maybe had a little bit more experience handling those agents. They're not problem people. They just maybe need a little bit of coaching, a little bit of inspiration. And sometimes I'll say, hey, Joe, Tom, whatever his name is, meaning the manager, why don't you do this one with me? And here's what it is. It's maybe that manager's a newer manager. They're not quite sure how to talk to or with their agents about certain subject matters. And I'm going to say, hey, so we're going to call Joe together. We're going to have a conversation. What I noticed in the last time I talked with him was there were 2 or 3 things he needed to work on. What I'd like to do with you is have you join me on that call. I'm actually helping you. I'm training you. I'm not training him.
That's awesome.
So watch how I talk about this. Watch when I use phrases like, man, if you can get that right, can you imagine what that's going to get? Though, because it's like painting pictures. Barry Clarkson taught me a long time ago, if you get really good at painting pictures for people of what it could be, if they make these little carburetor adjustments to their mindset, to their skill level, to their appointment schedule, to whatever it is they're doing, how things will look. And and your job is when you leave that person, you found them better than you got them on originally. And then they ought to feel excited to go accomplish something. Yes. Right? I say leave your agents when you're training them, especially if you're doing a training call, with 3 things. Something that they can go do like today or in the next 24 to 48 hours, and they can see the results of it. Like, hey, I accomplished that.
Wow.
The second thing is something they can accomplish in the next 2 weeks. Great, check, I accomplished that. The third thing may be a little 60 to 90 day-ish until the next time we come together and say, how did those 3 things go? And then give them 3 more.
Wow.
Development of people, not the insurance world, the development of people.
Yeah. People business.
That's right.
It's awesome. We want to close out with some inspiration topics and to add that kind of value. I think, and it's been so inspirational since we started the podcast, but if you can tell me who has been the most inspirational person that you ever met in your life, or that really puts such a big value in your life that you go, wow, this person really helped me. Who is it and why?
Wow. So it wasn't hard for me to choose that person. And it's not going to be somebody in the insurance world. It's not somebody as a mentor, even at one of my other companies. It's actually my father. And so my father was a high school dropout. Wow. It was either join the military or go to jail. He joined the military. Here's my point. He was a problem child. But here's why I'm saying he's the most inspirational to me, because he didn't have a huge education. He didn't even have a skill set. Wow. Because that's who he was. But here's and I was born, he was 26 years old. He had me. And that's when he chose to learn how to sacrifice, learn how to be disciplined, and learn how to execute, because now he had a family. Wow. So here's my point. What I take away from him and have taken away from him, and now he is retired, he's 84 years old. In July, he'll turn 84. It was his work ethic. He didn't make excuse. He taught me certain things. I'll say a few things. He taught me that, Eric, it's never that you can't do something.
Wow.
You either will or you won't. You're going to or you're not. But don't you ever tell me that you can't do something. And I think he was pulling from his own life. Because the man worked 52 years standing on his feet, cranking handles in a machine shop. For 20 years, he did that for somebody else and made them multi-million dollars and sold the business. It was at that moment. See, we have a saying in my business, and some people, I say this a lot, the risk is not taking the risk. That didn't come from a book. Wow. That didn't come from an inspirational speaker. My father, 22 years into his career, realized that if he didn't take the risk at that point in his life, he probably was never going to. We have a saying, we've heard it a lot, that says it's in those moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. So everybody listening to this podcast that's been thinking about getting a license, if you have a license and you feel like you're not at that right place, that right IMO, but I'm comfortable, like I'm afraid to jump. Okay, the risk is not taking the risk. If you have the right company with the right value system, the right core values like Idea Insurance does, if you have the right leadership, okay, the risk is absolutely is worth taking, because he took that risk, literally hawked his house, bought a couple of machines, worked in the garage, and then built this really successful business over the next 30 years.
Wow.
But it was his work ethic. He was a one-man job shop. If he didn't have work, he went and chased the work. Wow. He didn't cry in a corner and say, I don't have to work no more. He didn't take the easy way out and go back to a job. He worked through that learning curve of how to talk to people, how to get somebody that wanted to say no to say yes. He wasn't a salesperson at all. And I watched this in my garage, watched him talk to people on the phone, sat down with him and pay bills, all these things. So he's been my biggest inspiration through my life, because it's like, if I circle back and go, well, that's what Dad did. It doesn't matter whether the industries were the same or not. No, it's the person, it's the value system, it's the skill sets. It doesn't matter what the business is. So if you're out there thinking about, you know what, hey, I want to get with George. he'll teach you how to do this. Number two, if you're at an IMO where something's amiss, something's missing, come talk to us because it's not missing.
Wow.
And it'll make all the difference in the world for you.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What books have helped you the most in this industry? Like to work on this industry, build this industry?
Man, I tell you what,
maybe just one.
and the industry, of course, is people. So there's a author out there. His name is John Gordon, and a lot of people have heard of John Gordon. It's one book. You would think it's not something you think it's going to be insurance related. It's actually called The Carpenter. The Carpenter. It's an easy read. You'll finish it in a day and a half. John Gordon's the author. Okay. Go read The Carpenter. Go read another book by John Carpenter called The Way of the Shepherd. Another easy read, maybe 60, 70 pages. If you take those two books and take the principles in those two books and go apply them into your daily lives and your weekly conversations and your weekly dealings with the people, even just not in your life, but in your business, your clients, your agents you work with, you'll start to see changes.
Awesome. Last question. If you had the 20-year-old Eric Valdez, what advice would you give him?
Get my license at 20, not at 46. The risk is definitely worth taking. I probably wouldn't be sitting here if I was a 20-year-old. I would have been completely retired at this point. But no, George, I would say trust and believe in yourself. Lose your ego and your pride, and take the risk and get the license and go to work.
Awesome. It's definitely the best business I've seen, and I've seen a lot of stuff. Insurance business is definitely the real deal. We have proof here. Eric Valdez, you've done an amazing job building an organization with Equus Financial, now an integrity partner, over 300 agents. And you probably trained more than that and been through more than that. But that is an amazing accomplishment, and we just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being here, and I don't have more questions. So
thanks for having me, George. It's been an honor.
It's been an honor at this interview. I think it's going to help a lot of our agents, and I'll see you all next week on our next Ideas Edition podcast. You have been amazing, Eric. Thank you so much again.